Hello everyone, Professor Toybox here, and we're back for part 2 of our build for the Magician's Castle interior in our Fantasia toy box. I've got Sorcerer's Apprentice Mickey with me once again, and we're going to continue the build that we started yesterday. And so we started with the interior build, and we come into the toy box up there, come down the stairs to this little courtyard that we built, and then we come through this gate in the wall into this area. And now we're going to continue working on this part of the toy box. And so I'm going to come in here and we're going to go ahead and start filling in some more of the terrain. And we're going to start with this section over here, I believe. And I'm going to fill this in like that. And let's see, we need to do the same amount on this side, like that. So that looks pretty good. And before we go too much further, I think we need to put down some additional terrain. So I'm going to come out to the terrain drawer. And we're going to build off this direction here right now. And we'll see how far we get. We may need a third build video for the interior of the castle here. But we'll see how it goes. And I think that will do for right now. It's as far as I need to go that way. And just so I don't have to scroll all the way back over in that terrain drawer, we'll come over here, pick one of these up, and put it down. And this gets us over to this part of the drawer where I want to be. And I want this area over here to look like it's got a bunch of floating islands, because I think this is going to look really neat. And it'll be something unusual, because the interior of the castle is so much larger than the exterior. I want it to look like it's in another dimension. And so we're going to set up a series of floating islands out here connected by rail slides. And while I'm thinking of it, we're done with this down here. We'll go ahead and hide that, get rid of it rather. And I'll move those up a little closer to the bottom edge of the terrain there so that they don't show up, but I'll do that offline. You can do that yourselves. So now we've got this little corridor here that comes off of that middle section and kind of dead ends out here. And we'll come up to the blocks drawer, and I'm going to look for some pillars. Here we go. And the last texture I had used last time was this blacktop texture right here. But I need the Dunbrock Castle brick texture again, so I got to scroll over to the right and pick that up. And I'll set that to be my theme. There we are. And now we're going to come down to the Gameplay Toys drawer, to the rail slides, actually platforming toys. And we're going to start off right over here, right about, let's see, the middle of that block right there. I think is how I had this. Hold on just a moment. I'm reviewing my notes. And actually, it looks like I had started over here, which means that block isn't quite what I had set up before. I'm curious why that's a little bit different than what I have drawn here. Well, this doesn't really matter. So we're going to go ahead and put it right here about in the middle of that block. And so I'm going to start it there. We're going to put 2 of these in. And then pick up a curve. And this rail slide is going to connect to some different floating islands. And we're going to be making a puzzle out of this, as you will see as we go along here. We're not actually going to build the puzzle today, but I need to put down the rail slide pieces themselves in order to figure out where the islands have to go. And for this middle piece, I want this tri-turnpike. And this is going to sit here just like this. And then we'll continue on the other side. Now at this point, I'd like to put a ramp rail in here. And we're going to have this go up. Make sure that's connected over there. And I'm not actually setting the textures for these yet, because I want to do this all at the end. The rail slide pieces, unfortunately, they're not like the other pieces, so when I style these, they only style this one type, like the straight rail, and I'd like the style to apply to all of them. And I've covered this in other videos before, but I'll show you what I mean after we get all the rail slides laid out. So for right now, I think that's where I'm going to leave that. And over here, on this side, we need another steep rail. And oops, the wrong height. There we go. So that one goes up, and we're going to do another one on the other side. And at the top of each of these, we're going to put in this turn. And for this one, I want it to go that way. And on the other side, it's actually going to go that way. And since I'm right here, we'll go ahead and add the turns in. Just like that. And on this one, we're going to send this with the steep ramp rail going down. And then we're going to use the right upward curving rail and actually have this curve downward and around the corner. And then we'll use the left one to continue going down, back the other way. Yep, that's good. And we need 2 of these, because I want to get this out away from the other island. Another one of the right upward curving rails. We're actually making it curve downward. And then we need 2. of those. So one island's going to sit over here, one island is going to sit up over here, another island is going to sit out over this way, and then we got to connect this one up over here. So this is going to connect on the left edge of this one, and then we're going to use another steep ramp rail going down. And we'll turn, and I want to go down, so we need the other one. Like that. Have it turn down and go like that. And that's perfect. That'll dead end on that island. And then we're going to use a ramp rail over on this side and make this one continue to go up. So coming off of that intersection there. And then we need a turn. Like that. And we'll put in another ramp rail going down. And yeah, I could have just used flat, but it's a little more fun to go up and down and around. Makes things a little more interesting. And there we go. So that's going to be our ramp rail puzzle. And we're going to have some different ways to flip these different things, and the player's going to have to figure out how to set them to get to each of these different islands, because there's going to be something they need to do on each island. So now we'll go ahead and build the islands, and I'm going to come back up to the terrain drawer. And we're going to go ahead and drop one of these out here, and I want this to be right on the end of that piece, just like that. And the right edge of this should be right, let's see, not there, right about like that. So you'll see there's a little gap on the right side of this terrain block. And so if we come back to the rail slide pieces, I think I'm at the right height, but we'll see here in just a moment. And I'm looking at this vertical rail corner, and I want this to connect, and we're not at the right height. So this needs to land right on top of that piece of block. And so we actually need the flat edge of this terrain block to be down at the bottom edge of that yellow block there. And we need to be on the back side that I need to line that up. So, come down like that. I'm going to come over like this. Okay. It looks like that's about the same spot. So that's good. So now if we come back down to the platforming toys, and I think it might be nice actually if that came a little bit further in. So we're going to move this over one more block width. Oops. Probably, let's try there. And this is a little bit finicky. The position of the island isn't the important part. It's that I want this vertical rail corner to actually land on the surface here, so that when the player comes off of this, they're actually on the ground. So that's good. So we'll drop that like that. And then the other thing is this piece of it is like a pipe climb. So they need to be actually on the ground so they can climb up that and start sliding. So that's good. And now I'm going to change the texture on this, and we're going to set the theme to be the World of the Wisps from the Brave Forest Siege 2.0 game. So there we are. And come back to the terrain drawer. And let's see, if we scroll to the left, that might be the quickest way to get back to the square pieces. Yeah, maybe not. There we go. And I want this to line up like so. And then I gotta go back the other way. Probably should have dropped a second one of these pieces down. That might have gone a little quicker. Okay, and then we're going to put this around on each of the sides to make this a somewhat rounded looking little floating island. And you'll see by routing the rail slide the way we did, we're missing where the islands are sitting. So there's the first of the islands. And now we'll come grab this little piece, and I'm going to come over to this one first, I think. And we'll drop our floating island down here. We want to make sure this lines up at the same height as that rail slide, so that when we come off of that, we'll be right here. And so we'll line up the corner of it like that with the corner of that rail slide. And this will be a small little island. So that's good. And we're going to do the exact same thing over on this little one. Make sure we're at the same height. And just like that. And build a little floating island right here. And then on this one up here, we're going to make this one a little larger. So I'm going to go to the wide floating cliff. And that's actually got to come up a little bit. And we're going to slide this over. And this one, again, will line up right on the edge of that. Like so. So we got some different size floating islands out here. And I like the Brave texture because the sides of it are kind of got these little points of light on them. Kind of looks like it's glowing a little bit, like they're held up by magic. So that's kind of neat. And we're going to do another island very similar to that right over here. Okay, so there we go. We've got our rail slides. They're connected to these little floating islands out here. And this kind of looks like something I would expect to see inside of a magician's castle, maybe. I think that looks really cool. Now, we'll need some ruins on top of each of these. So we're going to come back up to the Building Sets Group 6, and we're going to drop down some castle pieces. And I'm going to put down these little corners, and we're going to put them right in the corner of this big terrain piece. Just like this. And make sure it lines up on the edges. And this will be a little fortress that's up here. And the walls for this are right here. And this is just wide enough for two of them. That lines up. And that lines up. And then for the front of this, we'll put a castle gate on. And this will look a little cramped, but it's not too bad. That looks pretty good. And they'll need a way to get up on top of those walls, so we'll put a couple of stairs in on either side. Over here and over here. And I also want to put in a couple of ladders that'll take us up on top of the wall. Like that. That looks pretty good. Okay, so there's the first location. So the rail slide will take us over there. Over on this one, we're going to put a tower. And I'm going to put a rather large tower. So we're going to come over to this really large Dunbrock tower. And I want to center this right here in the middle of this island. Just like that. And it doesn't necessarily need to be tall, I don't think. And we'll put these rails around it. That'll have it look kind of neat. And once again, we'll need a ladder, and I'm going to put it on the back side of the tower, just like that. So that looks good. And then on this other larger one, we're going to need another structure. So for this one, I think this is the piece I need. Let me double check my notes. If I can find my screenshot, here we go. Yeah, that's what I'm doing. And no window on the front. We got just enough room to put this archway in here, and I'm going to put actually 3 of them in. I'm going to rotate that a little bit so that it breaks it up as you're looking down the inside of that. And it's not quite so repetitive. And this will sit here like so. And then we're going to need this piece. And I want this to sit on either side like this. And like that. So we leave a little bit of a hole there. And it's going to be just big enough for a block height. So I should be able to stick a block in here like this, and actually 4 of them. So that's how high we want that, but I'm not actually going to put those in. I am, however, going to fill in the back side of this so that we have that. And the reason for that will become apparent in a future video. So there we go. We've got our floating islands. Those look pretty nice. We'll come back and add some scenery detail to that here in a little bit. Next thing we'll do is put down some more terrain. And I'm going to grab this texture here. I'm going to pick it up and drop it. And we're going to go off the end over here and change our texture now back to the Dusty Crop Hoppers runway. Like that. And I think, yeah, we need one more of those. that's what we got to have. And then fill in the hole. Here we are. And this little area will be the last one that we build for today. Just because I don't want to spend too long on this and end up boring you. So for this side, I think we're going to go ahead and put this in like that. Yeah. This will be a little corridor leading inside of the fortress here. And we're going to go ahead and just kind of angle this a little bit. Doesn't matter if there's some doors this time on this. As long as the door is not hanging off. So that looks pretty good. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Oh, nope, that's correct. Okay. So then now we'll come around and fill in the back side of this. And for this one, I don't want a door necessarily to be here. So we'll do it this way. And 1, 2, 3, and one over here. And let's go ahead and flip this one so that it's not quite so repetitive. That looks good. And now, one row of these across. And I don't want the door over there, so we'll flip that around. And eventually we're going to cover this whole section with blocks and fill in a roof. But for right now, I don't want to do that because we're going to need to work in there. We have things to build in there later. So we'll put in an archway here. Archway over here. Like that. We'll do the same thing over here. Same thing on this side. And then up on top, just to have some visual interest, we're going to put in the chapel. And I'm going to drop that right on centered over that with the door on this side. So it looks just like that. And add a little bit of visual interest because we kind of need it. I'm going to have this sit right in the middle of that crack and cover that up. And I think we should put some of these over here as well, because this looks a little plain. That adds a little bit of visual interest that's needed over there. And then I'm going to put down a tower over here. We're going to do the exact same thing on this side. I may have to move that in a minute. Put down the base over here. I guess we don't really need that one in the middle, do we? Let's pretty much covered up. Let's see, that's centered. So let's come over here just to save memory. And we'll delete that block out of the middle. And we need a top for the tower, so we'll use this piece right here. And there we are. So that's looking pretty good. You come into the courtyard, that looks pretty nice. Come through this little corridor and you find yourself out here with the rail slide connecting all of these little islands. And we'll fill in a few more details there next time with some trees. And then next time we'll build off over this direction and fill this area in. So we're almost there. We're going to need a third video. And so I'll do that next time. Yeah, I like the way that looks. So I think this is a good stopping point for today. We'll finish the build exercise tomorrow with a special part 3 video. And then next week we'll be able to continue with our tutorial series and look at the next piece that we're going to look at. So for now, if you haven't already done so, I encourage you to sign up on my blog so you don't miss the next episode. And I want to thank you again for watching with me today. And for now, Mickey and I are signing off from Fantasia, and we'll see you next time.